It's funny. People always be like, don't forget about the little people. It's like, why do they refer themselves as little anyway, you know? Why don't you just get big with me? Feel me? They can see it in my eyes.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of John's Entitled Podcast, a partner of MoshPitNation.com. This week's guest, well, I told you last week that the guest this week would have been just Jim Hawking, but I decided to put out this episode to correspond with the song that the guest, Sheel Davè of Bad Rabbits and Irepress fame. Bad Rabbits are dropping a new single, or a cover, I should say, today, February 14th, Valentines Day 2018. I did this chat with Sheel about a month ago at this point, and I've been kind of sitting on it just because some of the other episodes I had in front of it and did shortly after this one were a little more time sensitive. Like the Jim Hawking one needed to come out before their record. The King Gordy one was to push the record that's coming out. So it's just one of those things where some of these episodes were a little bit more time sensitive. And even though I know I said that the Jim Hawking one was going to be this week's episode, well, I fucking lied, and I can do that. So I guess those two episodes were for that week, and the this week's episode will be with Sheel Davè of Bad Rabbits and Irepress fame. I have loved Bad Rabbits because of Irepress. Sheel was the drummer of Irepress, very much like he's the drummer of Bad Rabbits. As you have heard me probably say on this podcast a handful of times, mainly the Deftones chats with Fallon, where I have talked about the Bad Rabbits cover of Sex Tape and how I love it, and it's really right up there with the original song itself. So enough of the tagging of Bad Rabbits across various social media and such, and I reached out to the band finally and tried setting up this chat. Sheel got back to me right away, and I think within maybe a day of everything, like this chat was happening. What's interesting about this though, and it's very serendipitous a lot of times when I get to talk to a lot of people, is, you know, I will have one encounter with somebody, and usually there's just kind of something about that is interesting that people kind of remember. Like, you'll hear right in the very beginning of my conversation with Sheel that, you know, he mentions that I look familiar, and when he would have met me probably at this point, almost 10 years ago, I was a lot smaller and less tattooed and so forth. But the interesting thing is, you know, I was at a very intimate house show, probably about maybe 30, 40 of us. And what's interesting, and as we kind of get into in the conversation, is how that house show and the stuff with Irepress shapes so many relationships, whether it be business, working stuff, or, you know, relationships that Sheel ends up, and the rest of the dudes in Bad Rabbits would end up, you know, using, or working, people that they end up working with. It's just interesting to see how far, like, you know, that small time in Irepress and basically that kind of tour shapes so much of what Bad Rabbits would be able to accomplish. And it's kind of weird to think about how, like, such a small moment for myself, you know, going to that house show. I talk about it all the time to people. When people want to, you know, ask me, sometimes people, I know this is like a weird tangent, sometimes, you know, people ask, like, why music, you know, because I think what's weird is people who don't really love music the way that I do, the way it speaks to me, the way it makes me feel. I can put on a song and I'm able to just, you know, get lost in it. And I remember, I can still, if I close my eyes and think about that house show, I may not be able to remember, you know, all the music being played and all that kind of stuff, but I can go back there. I can see the visuals of the lights on the light wooden floor, and the way that the room was kind of like a semicircle, like a half circle, because it jutted out where the living room was, and just all this band gear, and, you know, the lights were dimmed, and the like I said, like the 3 floor lights, like the LED lights in front of the band. There were no microphones, but everything sounded better than almost any venue I've ever been in, as far as the mixing of this stuff. And it's just literally the live instrumentation and the band, you know, 2-3 feet in front of us. And, you know, to me, that's when music and going to see live music is its most powerful when there's no bullshit. There's no dude mixing the sound like, oh, well, someone fucked up. I'm going to bury that in the mix, or, playing the tracks and shit like that. It's just the fucking band and you, and there's nothing to hide behind. And, God, it's just so fucking great. That's the great thing about music, and I love it so much. And, the dudes in Irepress and Sheel and those dudes, they gave me a memory that I just will always have and I will always love. And, still haven't gotten a chance to see Bad Rabbits yet. But that house show basically spurred so much because one of our mutual friends, Austin Keene, who now runs a small boutique label called Mind Over Matter Records. You'll hear us talk about that in this chat as well. The whole reason that the relationship between Bad Rabbits and Mind Over Matter has become a thing is because of that house show. And that even goes back further to the band that they were on tour with was on a smaller label that's out here in Michigan called Saw Her Ghost Records. One of Austin's bands was on it, and Austin did a lot of stuff with that label. So, it's just really weird. Like, I can think of that one instance where, a couple of us all, saw this band that happened to be on tour, and the lifelong impact it's had on at least three of us between Sheel, myself, and Austin. Then there's even, the connection to another mutual friend within the vinyl community because Bad Rabbits are one of those bands, and Irepress was too, that focused on putting out quality, interesting vinyl packages. And so as a result, someone that I have kind of gotten to know over a handful of years due to booking Harvard, when that band was still an active band, is Ross Shotland of Enjoy the Ride Records. And he's intertwined with Bad Rabbits, having put out American Love a while back. So it's just it's really crazy. I feel like this was a long time coming, just because of how impactful, like I said, this house show was to at least two of us. Between Austin and myself, and I guess Sheel, so three of us, and just it was really great getting to talk with Sheel. And the interesting thing was, a lot of times when I do these interviews, I like to kind of quickly run through the questions I have just in case the guest is like, nah, I'm not really feeling that question, or yeah, I can't talk about that. I mean, you never know what someone is or is not willing to talk about. I don't really typically tell anyone until right as we're getting ready to record, because I'm still working on my line of questions and the narrative I'm trying to come up with. And the thing is I kind of hit on like two questions I was gonna ask, and then Sheel just went for like an hour. And oddly enough, we ended up discussing a lot of the things I was going to ask, but I didn't have to ask, and I didn't have to well, what I'm trying to get to is this. So I think this is really one of the more interesting podcasts I've done where I really just let the person go. And let them tell their story. And it was really great. She was very, very forthcoming with a lot of stuff. Like, Bad Rabbits have kind of been MIA lately, and it really sucks. And I kind of was, in light of actually Harvard that I just mentioned, more or less by all accounts, band's done. They are not, obviously performing. There was no press release saying, hey, we're done. The band just kind of ceased to exist. And another project, Foreign Air, has two of the members between Jesse and Lee, the guitar player from Harvard, in it, and they're doing really well right now, playing with a lot of great bands and so forth. And I'm actually hoping to maybe get Jesse on, if he would be so gracious to give me some time to talk to him about everything. But back to Bad Rabbits. They basically put out, American Love, which was kind of a bit of a, not a departure, but just a little bit of a different kind of vibe that the band was going for. More, I don't know. I kind of talk about it in the episode. And then they put out American Nightmare, and just tonally, it's so different. And then the band just kind of went away for the last year or so. And it was one of those where there was so much buzz and hype, they were getting on great shows. They were getting on, a couple of dates on a tour that was really good, and then just kind of went away. We kind of get into why that had been going on, what's been going on with the band, what's been going on with Sheel, since the band's kind of been a little inactive as of lately. But there is a whole lot of information in this episode as well about the future going-ons with Bad Rabbits in 2018. More to the point of why I'm dropping this episode today on Valentine's Day 2018. So stay tuned to the very end of this episode, and I will give you more information on that. Let's get to my chat with Sheel Davè of Bad Rabbits. Am I on mute? There we go. Is that better?
Good, man.
Technology, gotta love it.
Yo, have we met before?
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up. You played at my friend Kelly's house when you were doing the Irepress tour with what is it? Glassfield?
That's crazy, man.
And then I think that's how you ended up meeting Austin, which is how I think before you even had Mind Over Matter, because that was the same night.
I was like, yo, why does this dude have a Coliseum poster in the background? I was like, I've met this guy somewhere. But yeah, anyways, what's up, dude?
Not much. So
I was listening to the new Bad Rabbits album actually just now. So we had to yeah, I mean, we could talk about that after this shoot.
yeah, I didn't, because I kind of asked him because I figured, interestingly enough, like I know Ross Shotland, who Enjoy the Ride Records. I know he did what was it, some of the other American Love, yeah. But I know as a whole, like basically you've worked with Austin on like everything. So I was kind of hitting him up and I'm like, hey, I'm talking with Sheel later in a couple of weeks or so, and is there anything like, like if I like, because some people are kind of bad about being like, I don't know what I can talk about, but I gotta get with the label person or whatever, which is basically Austin. So I was like,
ready to talk, man.
huh?
A lot to talk about.
Yeah. Well, he kind of was like, yeah, he goes, it's funny you're talking to the guy that basically, because of your back problems, is the reason that a whole lot can't be, or hasn't been talked about in a while, because they're waiting for you to get healthy. So I was like, okay.
Well, there's honestly a lot more to it.
Oh, no, I'm
my
sure.
back issues are definitely play a major role.
Yeah.
But I mean, as you can see, like
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Patches on my neck, some amino nerve frequency patches.
Yeah.
So I'm in some serious therapy to try to get my back in shape. I mean, I'm not crippled, you know what I mean? But I can't. I want to be able to walk when I'm older, and I don't want to really fuck my back up more than it is.
Right.
Because just years of touring, being unhealthy,
Yeah.
took a toll on me. Obviously, genetics too. My dad has a bad back, and my brother has a bad back. So our spines weren't really built to, lift heavy gear on the road and like sleep on friends' couches. So all that shit just kind of caught up to me.
Yeah.
And I'm paying for it now, but luckily, medicine and clinicians and pain management, pain medicine in general have come a long way. So there's stuff like stem cell injections, and there's injections where they extract your blood and then they concentrate and inject it back in, which helps regenerate discs and ligaments. So I'm just trying to avoid surgery and doing a lot of PT and then a lot of like breathing and meditation. It's definitely took a pretty massive effect on my mental health, not being able to like perform and do what I really love to do. So but making progress for sure, and we're gonna be ready to release music and perform this summer.
Awesome. Yeah, I initially I wasn't gonna write a lot down because I tend to find that when I sort of off the cuff everything, I feel like it goes a little better. So hold on just a second. I unplugged my laptop cable to keep it charged. But I also kind of
just being completely honest, I gave the band my blessings to find another drummer as a replacement, at least temporarily. And they made the decision to kind of just uh, chill out and allow things, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on the industry back end as well, as far as like just some bad decisions that we made in the past that are like sort of coming back to haunt us now. As far as just like the business of music goes,
Yeah.
so we can talk about that as well.
I was gonna say all I really was gonna kind of get into was just kind of like your background personally, the influences that got you into drumming, getting into
Okay.
Irepress, talking a little bit about that. Um, for my own knowledge, I just kind of would like to know what the fuck's going on with that, because you're like some of these other bands where it's almost like the As Lay Dying thing. Like once a year, you're like, "Hey, we still have this record out," and you're like, "Oh shit!" Does that mean like you guys are like coming out, or you're just trying to get rid of like the old shit? So,
Yeah.
and then Bad Rabbits. Kind of how did the project come about? It's kind of interesting because like in doing a little bit of digging, because I try to do enough to where I'm not asking the same fucking questions that have been asked like a million times, but
Yeah.
I also kind of have to realize that people who are listening to this potentially don't know much about you guys, so I have to kind of like play devil's advocate where I'm like asking questions that I want to know, but also asking pretty generic questions too. So I was just gonna kind of go into like with Stick Up Kids, like you guys had obviously like a lot of different styles kind of going on, but something that I felt was more rooted sort of in like the I never know if this is like actually like just me putting some shit on it or not, but I feel like like one of the definitive kind of like styles that like I feel like was what kind of like a catalyst for the band was like sort of that New Jack style, like New Jack Swing kind of stuff from like the early '90s, like R&B kind of shit going on. Like that's sort of like
Yeah.
almost like a catalyst of sorts.
Well, we actually, one of our songs is on the radio right now. It's called Finesse.
Yep.
No, number one on the radio right now on the album charts. I don't know if you heard that song. It's actually by Bruno Mars,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it sounds it sounds like something we wrote 8 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna
Uh,
say he basically came out and has like been the only one really kind of carrying the torch for that old like early '90s like R&B that I grew up like because I'm from the East Coast initially myself, so it's like that's kind of the shit like when I was sort of getting into music and like going to school when people were listening to shit like that's what I was hearing. Like like I
yeah,
know this sounds cliche now, but it's like I remember you're like Motown Philly like being fucking huge and seemingly being
yeah,
on it before like that came out like and blew up.
yeah, man. So like the whole New Jack thing was, obviously we didn't create that style of music, but we made sure when we worked on Stick Up Kids to really put our own take
Yeah.
on that. I guess borrowing of that genre. And since we did something unique with it, it got in the hands of the person who actually created the genre, New Jack Swing, which is Teddy
Teddy Riley.
Riley.
Yep. So
And
I was, yeah, and I don't want like I'm not trying to cut you off. I just
and
don't want
so
to answer all
honestly,
these things yet.
no disrespect to Bruno Mars, because he's an incredible talent, and I think, and it's crazy because like a lot of people that worked on his new album, including the song Finesse, are people that we worked with on the back end, songwriters and producers.
Right.
Um, Mainly the songwriter on that song we actually wrote an album with, and that's one of the things we're dealing with right now is like we actually have to scrap that whole project because of just some bullshit on the back end.
Right.
It's really not going into the details. It's just like we're this kind of like minuscule piece of the music industry, and at one point we were playing the pop game. We're working
Yeah.
with songwriters and major producers, and we just like realized that is not for us. We grew up playing in punk and metal bands, touring in vans. We didn't just like get signed to a label and we got thrown on a tour bus and got thrown on a major tour with a huge producer. Like we earned this shit. And no disrespect to people in the pop world that are super successful now, including Bruno Mars, because they do what we do, but like we realize that there's certain things that we hold dear to our hearts. Songwriting and producing. We have our circle of friends and our network of creatives that have worked for us in the past, and at one point we lost sight of that. We thought, okay, cool, all these labels are interested in us, and unfortunately at that time we got laughed at by pretty much every major label that was listening to our music and received our album or our songs on their desks. They were like, this is outdated. And then fast forward 8 years till now, you hear funk and R&B, like 90s, late 80s, early 90s R&B influences all over the radio. So it just kind of shows that it proved to us that we really need to stick to our guns and just do our own thing, not worry about any like what other songwriter, any producer, what anybody else is doing. We just need to like really stick to our guns. And this album that we have coming out is a testament to that. But to kind of circle back on Irepress, Irepress played a huge role in the evolution of Bad Rabbits because so I started playing drums when I was in eighth grade, eighth or ninth grade in high school, and I grew up listening to Indian classical music, and then I was also listening to Indian Bollywood music. My dad was heavily into the classical end of Indian music. My mom was into the Bollywood end of things, more of the pop route. And then, but at the same time, my parents were heavily into Michael Jackson because they were fresh off the boat from India, and Michael Jackson was just an artist that was
I mean,
just
he was everywhere.
so like he's like the international artist of a lifetime,
Yeah.
just like of ever.
Yeah.
So my parents were spinning, Thriller, and my brother and I would play um, ping pong in our basement, listening to Michael Jackson Thriller on vinyl. And so that was always so. My brother plays bass in Irepress, and so him and I always grew up listening to R&B, but also listen to Indian music. Um, but we're also heavily into bands like Deftones, Glassjaw, um, Meshuggah, Tool, just all these bands that I guess were sort of ahead of their time, and
Right.
now like thousands of other bands sound like them now. So our goal was to really, if we were going to start a band, it was to take those influences, but to not sound like that. And so Irepress was kind of our outlet to take all those heavier influences, and also the element of groove and R&B, and kind of that like I guess like the rhythm sections of like hip hop and R&B. We sort of injected that into Irepress as well. And so if you listen to the albums, a lot of the kick drums are locked in with the bass guitar, and we made it very clear from the beginning that we didn't want to be one of those just typical metal bands or post rock bands. And then again, like Irepress got laughed at by the label community in the metal world as well because we were almost like too silly for these labels, these bigger metal labels, because we weren't wearing all black.
Right.
We weren't all tatted up. We came from like middle class suburbs of Massachusetts and like grew up, like we had really good childhoods, and so like we also were like blessed to listen to a ton of different types of music, and so we never really fit in anywhere. And so Salim, actually from Bad Rabbits, has been a friend of mine since I was, I think, like 12 years old, and so we brought him on the road with Irepress as our tour manager slash sound engineer. And so we learned how to tour in a van. We learned how to book our own tours. Shout out to Rusty from the band Battlefields.
Yeah.
He was a complete G in the DIY touring space. Like I can't even believe that he booked a tour completely himself across the U.S. Through MySpace. And so
MySpace was
we come
powerful
from
back in the
that,
day.
just like doing it yourself, and anytime any label or partner would come along, it would just be, I know it'd be tough. And thankfully, Translation Loss Records from Philadelphia, um, they were one of the only labels that allowed us to be ourselves. We actually were talking to Aaron Turner from ISIS, who owned Hydra Head at the time, and I just don't think he was really vibing with what we were. Like it just didn't feel right. Going that route, the typical kind of like post rock metal route. But Translation Lost was willing to just let us do our thing. So they we put out Samus Octology before we signed to them, and that album did pretty well in the post rock world. And I think a lot of other bands now take from that era of that, like that first, I guess, that first incarnation of post rock, which was like, to me, was it it was like Explosions in the Sky, um, even ISIS or Pelican. Like I don't even like ISIS or Pelican. Both those bands bore me. Respect to them. And, they worked their asses off. They toured forever, but like like rhythmically, I couldn't really get into them, but like their soundscapes and all that stuff were so big and epic that it was admirable. I think a lot of
Right.
people caught up to that because it was such a big sound. But from a drummer's perspective, um, I just wasn't really into the typical post rock or metal. So I was just like, let's try to do something new and a little different and just be ourselves. And we added a little bit of a dance element to it, a little bit of R&B element, but it was still heavy as fuck.
Yeah.
Um, and then, Irepress, people in Irepress just kind of grew up, and Brett, our guitar player, got married, had a kid. Um, it just kind of like, life took its course, and people just kind of moved on from Irepress. And at one point, we got together and recorded a bunch of songs, demos, and we put out a 2-song EP recently. Not recently. This was probably even like a couple of years or 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Put that out. We thought we were gonna do more songs, but like communication and people's lives just got in the way, and it just didn't really. It just doesn't seem like now is the time for us to be like a band. Like we never officially broke up or anything like that.
No.
Um, we're actually Austin, Mind Over Matter Records is actually working on a vinyl release of Salmon's Octology. And I just approved the artwork for that. My friend Jimmy Laser from Providence just did the artwork, which looks crazy. Like in Austin, I'm sure is going to do an incredible job with the vinyl and the pressing and the screen printing and all that. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much the only thing that Irepress has going on right now is a Samus Octology vinyl release because we never pressed that on vinyl ever. We're gonna do a super limited run of that.
Well, that's good to hear. I know. It was just I've told the story several times on this podcast about. I mean, it's kind of funny because like I've kind of blown like suck the dick of bad rabbits on this podcast though, for like the past year indirectly, whether it be like talking about how like seeing you guys like it's like like talking about house shows and people talking about how oh I can only do this or we're at the touring level where we can only do these things, and I was like I remember seeing this band Irepress and like they were basically like an instrumental band, even though like the band themselves would kind of do like a cappella vocals, like no microphones and shit. And I was like, but I remember them like in a setting in my friend's like living room. They had a couple of like lights, like 3 lights, like kind of staggered, and it was like the most like enthralling thing I had ever. Like I was like, holy shit, I can't believe it sounds this good. It's in a fucking house, and I was like, and it just speaks
Honestly,
to,
man,
and I was like, and that just
I
speaks
miss
to,
that shit.
yeah, I was like, that just speaks to, how proficient musicians those people were, and I was like, but that was like the thing for me, like where I kind of like was like, wow, like house shows and like DIY kind of shit. It can be something more than just kind of like, well, let's all cram into this basement and like barely be able to hear anything, but hey, we're all here together and it's the vibe we're creating. But it can be like this thing where the music actually transcends all, like it takes us all somewhere for 30, 45 minutes. And I was like, and it's crazy to have gone from that and then seeing where you ended up going once you ended up joining Bad Rabbits and kind of seeing seemingly the instant success, and again from an outsider's perspective, because it just seemed like once Bad Rabbits came out and like Stick Up Kids kind of like landed, so to speak, and I feel like it wasn't necessarily the song you guys did with Travis McCoy, but it definitely helped having him on, because at that point like Gym Class Heroes was sort of at the height of its popularity as far as where they would go. And I think around that time was like when Travis was doing like the solo stuff. So like, he was really active in trying to be a solo artist per se. And I feel like you guys like just kind of got him to be on your thing when, the spotlight was kind of on him. So a lot of people that maybe weren't necessarily sure of like what you were doing or what it was, because he was on it, people were like, yo, did you check out this Bad Rabbits band? And then kind of stayed because of how good it was. very much like Irepress. Like, I went in just to go hang out with my friends at a house show, but like the music kept me there, and then as a result, I became a fan of you guys, followed you, even told you. I just told this story on a podcast like probably about a month ago at this point. But I was talking about how you guys. I played a show in Greenbrier, Tennessee, at this like shit coffee house, and they fucked us on our guarantee. And then I told the promoter dude, I was like, I don't know how, but I was like, if I ever find someone that, excuse me, will listen to me, I'm gonna tell people not to come fucking play here. And you guys were like, announced a tour, and then I was like, hey, on MySpace, I was like, hey, we just played there like maybe like 5-6 months ago. It's shot. Don't go there. Book a different date. Go to like Memphis or something like that, or go into like, proper Tennessee. And then you're like, cool. Yeah, we heard it's kind of sketchy. We're bailing on it. And then then I guess the dude ended up finding out it was me. And then he goes, I don't know why you're like costing me shows. And I was like, I told you, dude. I told you. Karma, dude. And I was like, shit. I know, like I was in like a bullshit little band that didn't fucking matter and blah blah blah. And I was like, but I told you, like anybody I knew that was gonna play there, like I would personally reach out and tell them not to play there. So
funny, man.
There's little things like that, like with us, like you and I anyway, or like the bands you've been in that kind of just flowing in and out over the last handful of years.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I feel as if like both those bands are, like at one point it was like one big family because I was very active with both at one point.
Right.
And like, one rehearsal every night of the week with one of the bands. I was doing Monday with Bad Rabbits, Tuesday with Irepress, and it was like we were all sharing the same rehearsal space. So we were all friends. Like we grew up in touring together. It was just so we were all one big family, and I feel as if our peers understood and they respected me going over to Bad Rabbits from the Irepress world, and I actually saw a ton of people. Friends from metal bands that kind of crossed over and started listening to Bad Rabbits, whether it was because of me, whether it was because of the style of the music. I mean, I think it's just a testament to the music of Bad Rabbits and just remaining honest, I guess, and just doing what we felt was right at the time. And we got our ass kicked by the music industry, and I think you're right. Like at one point it felt like it was instant success with Stick Up Kids, and shout out to Gym Class Heroes because those dudes are still the homies to this day. And Irepress actually played with Gym Class Heroes. That's how we met. I think I got in touch with them via email or something, or MySpace, when they were coming or they were doing some sort of Northeast tour, and I was like, hey, listen, I'm in an instrumental metal band, but your band is tight. And then they listened back and they were like, your band is tight too, let's play a show. So Irepress ended up playing a show with Gym Class Heroes, and that's how that relationship started. So and then it's crazy how many things from Irepress translated over to Bad Rabbits.
It was kind of interesting. I mean, you would think that like those two, even in genre, sort of like those two wouldn't necessarily have much crossover, but I mean, like I'm sort of like you and myself are, I mean, even in, I would say the music that we listen to, like we're products of, I mean, God, I say this all the fucking time, but I don't know how old you are, but I assume you're roughly around my age. I'm 33.
35.
Okay. So, I mean, like we grew up in a time where, like, I mean, especially being a product of the 80s more or less and early 90s, it's like those are some of like, a lot of people want to shit talk and say like, oh, there's so many one-hit wonders, and it's like, but look at the different styles and the genres being mashed together and combined in all those one-hit wonders. It's like we are a product, or we're a demographic basically of people that grew to love all kinds of music as a result. I mean, like look at Michael Jackson. He did everything from having Eddie Van Halen on some shit to having pop music and funk and all that kind of shit. And it's like I think it's and then you even cite like a band like Glassjaw or something like that. Kind of going further down the road. And I mean, it's like Glassjaw is. I remember hating Glassjaw honestly because I hated Daryl's voice. At least on that first record, I hate that. I still really don't like that first record personally. But Worship and Tribute, it's like what really it took for me to get into Daryl's voice was Head Automatica. And when I finally heard that, I was like, oh, I get it. Now I want to go back and listen to this other band this dude's in. And then I like was able to. I think I was just ready for it because it's like when you don't necessarily listen to stuff that's kind of all over sonically like that. Because I mean, it's like they'll go from something very fast paced and up tempo and shit to then kind of like a.
Yo, sorry about that, man.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, you were talking about Glassjaw.
No, I was just saying, like, it's interesting to kind of look back at, a band like Glassjaw and a lot of these other bands that now are considered pioneers and so forth of kind of mashing a lot of genres and styles together. But it's interesting because, like, when Bad Rabbits themselves came out as with Stick Up Kids, I just feel like you were able to take a sound that, as had already kind of said, wasn't popular at the time. But for those of us who are of that age group, it's like, oh shit, this has like a little bit of like what I grew up listening to. It reminds me of these things. It reminds me of that. And I would say the same thing with Irepress. Like, it had enough touches of things that we all like. If you're into that style of music, it's like, it's kind of heavy and aggressive. So if you like metal, it's like, oh, here's some like cool like throwdown parts. But then it's like, oh, if you like kind of
Yeah,
soft
right.
ambient shit, it's like, oh, there's some cool stuff here too. You've always been involved with bands that find a way to mash a lot of styles and genres together without it sounding forced. And I often wonder, because like as you were saying, like, oh, when Irepress was kind of shopping stuff to labels, people didn't get it or whatever. It's like, I feel like just consistently you've been ahead of the path. And I mean, it's like you were talking about, like, oh, we grew up in the burbs and all this kind of shit. And my first thought was like, I remember all the shit August Burns Red used to get because they weren't like kids who grew up poor or whatever and like were pissed off, and that's why they're making this aggressive metal and all this shit. It's like, no, they had good families and they came from good backgrounds and shit, and they just liked this music, so they made it. And it seems like it
Yeah, I
took
mean,
them a long time to get any kind of respect in the industry because they didn't apparently have some horrible fucking backstory to make people want to like them.
yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just following a very unconventional path. I think it just, it was definitely a double-edged sword because, like when it comes down to industry shit, it was like we didn't really. It was hard to get thrown a bone because it was, people just didn't really get it. I'm grateful now. Such a learning experience. I'm grateful now that we just stuck to our guns and did what we wanted to do. And I get no disrespect to someone like Bruno Mars because he's doing '90s music, and he's on a wave that we were on 8 years ago. But lucky for him, he hit it at the right time, and he's sick. Like that song "Finesse" that's on the radio. That I made a joke saying that Bad Rabbits has a song on the radio.
Yeah,
Yeah, does it sound like us?
not
Does it sound like
entirely.
does it sound like Belle Biv DeVoe?
Yes.
Like I personally think that like the difference between that song or what he's doing now, aside from him being an incredible artist, is that we I feel again I feel as if with Stick Up Kids we just made sure we didn't stick to one thing.
Right.
We like of course like were we influenced by early '90s music and New Jack Swing for sure, but we were also influenced by like you said, throwdown and beatdown parts, and like Bad Rabbits has a really tough and sort of like I guess punk element to it
Yeah.
that no other R&B band I think at that time at least had. And so I think it just our singer grew up playing in a hardcore band.
Right.
Like Celine, the guitar player, grew up playing in a rock band. Graham, our bass player, grew up playing in a punk band. I obviously grew up playing metal and hardcore music, but it's just we love R&B music and we started playing it. So like, do I fucking dance to "Finesse" by Bad Rabbits? Fuck yeah, because I think I mean by Bruno Mars. but but like I also am like a little suspect on it too because I feel as if he could have done something a little differently with it. So I don't know, that's what I've been always about. I've always been trying to like push the boundaries a little bit, and granted, if a label doesn't like it, at one point I was like, fuck man, we can't get a look from any labels. They just don't get it. Like I said, I'm grateful that we didn't go that path at this point because we're not at the mercy of anybody anymore. We don't have a manager. We don't have a record label. Um, we have our friend. Like we work with our friends now.
Right.
Our main producer is Brad Lewis. He's a close friend of ours. He produced American Love. Uh, our main art and branding guy is actually Beck from Glassjaw, good
Okay.
friend of ours from a long time back. And then I went back and circled back to a band called the Eclectic Collective.
Oh my
That
god, I was Facebook group I'm in. For Every Time I Die, one of the guys I guess that knows Dua was talking about that group, and I
Yeah, so
was like, I don't
that
know that group, but
everybody in Bad Rabbits was in that group before. It was like a 10-piece kind of like funk band,
okay,
or I guess it was like kind of like a
a
jam band.
collective.
Yeah, I mean you can Spotify it, it's called the Collective, but so my friend Jimmy, who's an illustrator, did a bunch of illustration work for the Eclectic Collective and Irepress. Actually, it actually all comes back to Irepress. And so now he's doing all the artwork for our new album, and so our whole album campaign for our new Bad Rabbits album was completely done by Jimmy Laser. Check him out on Instagram. It's at Jimmy Laser, I think, or Laser Labs.
I think it's
Yeah,
Laser Labs because I think other people I follow it.
yeah. So at Laser Labs, he's a sick artist, and so like we just kind of circled back and we cleansed ourselves of all the industry bullshit, all the whack management that we had, the songwriters and producers that really didn't have our backs and really didn't want to fuck with us. And so, like, what I'm saying is that we only fuck with people now that want to fuck with us. You
Right.
know, and we're keeping our circle very, very tight. We don't, you know, if you like our band and want to like write a song with us or for us, you know, we're probably gonna say no at this point because we've just been put through hell and back with that side of the industry that
Right.
it's not worth going back anywhere near that at this point. So like, unless a label's gonna throw us a mill for an advance, we're not going down that route.
Something I've kind of wondered as well, and it always sucks because like I feel like any. I'll just preface it by saying this. I feel like anytime I want to maybe discuss race at all. I feel like it's kind of awkward for me because it's like I'm the fucking token white guy asking
Yeah,
questions.
go for
But
it.
my thing, and it's more to just as an inquisitive person and just kind of because I feel like I've seen it, but I've not really seen it with you guys. With you guys being basically a very or international basically band, like all the people in your band come from different backgrounds. I've wondered, do you think maybe that's kind of what has caused some of your issues in the industry? Because like I know I've heard some
It's called
crazy bullshit that should have nothing to do with anything. Because at the end of the day, if the talent's fucking there and the songs are there, then that's all that should fucking matter. But we know,
yeah. I
you
mean,
know just as well as I do that there's other things that go into, well, you look too old, or you don't have this, or you don't have that, or the things that aren't marketable. So I wondered if that's ever anything that you have encountered in Bad Rabbits, or even in Irepress, like just being like, oh, you guys aren't good looking enough, or you don't have the front man and all this kind of, which is bullshit. In any of the bands you've been in, like that's bullshit. Like you have everything, I think, all the tools needed to succeed. And I've always been kind of shocked that it seems like for every step forward you take, it seems like the industry maybe is pushing you back 2 steps because they just don't see what should matter the most, which is the music. But I don't know
yeah.
if that's something I'm putting on it or not.
It's certainly, I mean, across the board, we've certainly dealt with some racism, whether it's from people in the industry or not. I think just like in general, we've dealt with racism, and it's sad, but it definitely made us all stronger. And I think the most outspoken person in the whole, I guess, collective between both bands is probably Dua, about race and about politics, and it's crazy because the guitar player for Irepress um, is a Trump supporter, and like no one else in the collective is, but I saw him the other night and it was all fun and games. He's still the homie, like, so we put a lot of that shit aside, and we focus on music, and if we have beefs, we try to put it into our music, and sometimes it's tough because sometimes you really have to speak out on things, and but I think if it's people who I guess are super outspoken about these issues are definitely doing a good thing um, to put it out there and defend themselves in certain situations or just defend other people. But I also think there's a little bit more of an eloquent way to do it, especially with musicians. I think that musicians could definitely channel that more into music, rather than maybe like posting a bunch of shit on social media, and I don't know. It's just I feel as if there's just a smarter way to deal with those issues. And so, to answer your question, we've certainly dealt with racism across the board. Whether it's played a role in us getting a record deal or not, potentially. I remember at one point we were being courted by a couple major labels, and they started talking about aesthetics, and like one of the really appealing things to this one executive that we were talking to was that we were so multicultural and we were kind of like the American dream. We have an Indian dude, we have a white dude, we have a Hispanic dude, we have an African guy, and three of us were fresh off the boat, I guess. But
Right.
like, we're not fresh off the boat. We're first generation
Right.
Americans,
Yeah.
up here. But I think you would think that maybe that's like an appeal as far as marketing goes, but it didn't really work, man. It wasn't really like, as far as like getting a record deal, it just wasn't one of those things where like it helped us, and maybe it hurt us. Who knows? But yeah, like I said, we certainly dealt with some racism in the past. I think more so probably Irepress, because like I said, we didn't look like a metal band. We
No.
didn't really sound like a metal band. And we didn't really act like a metal band. We were like smiling and laughing on stage at each other.
Yeah.
It's like we weren't mean mugging each other. We just having fun, like just having fun with our friends on stage. And I think good friends make good music. And if you're in a band just to like please a genre or please a record label or just like follow a wave that has been done over and over and over, and then that's for me personally. Any band or project that I've been a part of, I've tried to keep myself kind of like restricted when it comes to what projects I like to be a part of. And those two bands, to me, I was able to put all my influences into one project.
Yeah.
And I think Bad Rabbits is that project, because when Bad Rabbits has a show, it's very high energy and it's live and it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's not like two-stepping the whole time. People mosh at our shows, and we're an R&B band.
I know, it's funny. I saw a video because I was trying to find the video of you guys doing Bulls on Parade with Vincent from the Acacia Strain from Warped Tour, like forever ago. And apparently that doesn't exist, but I found quite a few of your versions, the ones you did with was it Cody Beware? And
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny when Dua was like, "All right, ladies, like I know you probably don't know any like what's about to happen. This shit's gonna get wild.
Yeah.
Like get off to the side now. I'm warning you." And I was like,
I
just thought it was funny.
I feel as if a lot of our peers, Bad Rabbits musical peers, are from the heavy music world. Like we did Warped Tour 2011. Acacia Strain was a band we became super cool with. Every Time I Die, we played a show with them in Brooklyn. If they're listening to this shit right now, they better put us on their holiday show at the end of this year.
That Facebook group I was talking about, I had there's kind of been going because a lot of the people in that group, I would say a good probably 200-300 from all over the world actually went to the show this past year, and so like that day of the show was just nothing but like live updates and pictures and videos and shit. And it just looked like so much fun. And then when they did the tickets, I already got mine for this upcoming year. And someone in the group was like, "Oh, who would you like to see?" Like when they posted the thing that Eats had posted, like, "Who would you like to see this year?" And I was like, "I don't know about anybody else, but I would really love to see fucking Bad Rabbits." I think it worked before. Like you guys go over so well. And even in prep for this conversation, I was like, in doing some going back and listening to different stuff. Like I went had this weird rabbit hole thing I went down where I was listening to Stick Up Kids, and then I was thinking about Travie McCoy, and then I really wanted to hear the Machine and I that Travie and Keith did, like the remix of that, the Queen and I. And then it got me thinking, I was like, man, it would be cool to see Keith on like a Bad Rabbit song. I think it'd really work. Like it could showcase something he really likes doing, because I know he's big into like, there's that clip of him singing Boyz II Men End of the Road and all that kind of shit. So I know like he's into that style of music. And so I was just like, he'd like fucks with like my friend Shay Hawk and stuff like that, like doing like hooks on his stuff. So I was like, I mean, it just seems inevitable a Bad Rabbits and Keith collab. And then so I was like, it would be really cool to see you guys do something with him. And I kind of put that out there just to be like, what do you think? Like, how do you think that would sound? And everyone's like, oh man, BR all day. Like I saw Bad Rabbits at this show with them. It was fucking tight. I saw them on Warped Tour. It was fucking tight.
And then, like I said, like, a bunch of us are like, yeah, Bad Rabbits on the Shitmas Christmas show, like, would be fucking sick. So I know there's, like, enough people that would like it. I know that
Yeah.
booking shows myself, I know there's more to it than just being like, well, look, there's, like, people on the internet that say this would be cool. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, but I know, like, they're big on it's their thing. They want to pick the bands they want to have on. So I mean, like, I think that the fact that you guys have played shows and they're fans of yours first and foremost, I think that's what they're looking to do, is have bands that they're fans of on the bill. So I mean, it would be a good. I think it'd be a good look all across the board. I think it'd be something different for those that wouldn't know who you guys are. It'd be like, I think for you. I think you being on this year's Christmas show would almost be like they're a band that a lot of people know if you're familiar with that scene, but there were a lot of people that aren't familiar with that band, and they were sort of the odd band out. But a lot of people walked away being like, "Oh man, Pup was really fucking sweet. I really like them. I'm so glad E.T. put them on this show." And I think that's the spot I think you guys would be in if you got on the show this year. Like, people might be like, "I've heard of this Bad Rabbits. I don't know what the big fucking deal is," and they would walk away being like, "Holy shit, that was awesome." So
yeah,
I hope you guys get on.
You know, they've been super cool. Like, I think we started talking to, I think, Andy or someone from ETID on Twitter a while back, and then we were also talking to Jason from Let Live at the time.
Oh god, that would be a great collab too.
So we were talking, all the bands were talking to each other on Twitter or some shit, and then we ended up just getting in touch with ETID's management, and we booked a show in Brooklyn at this tiny spot, which was Bad Rabbits, Let Live, and ETID. And that shit was so crazy. And I think from there on out, we've just remained friends with both of those bands. And we actually, our album is, crossing all fingers, is going to come out this summer.
Right.
And I think we're going to do a New Year's Eve show in Boston, because we were doing that for a little while, and then we kind of just took a step back from everything. And so we really want to do that Every Time I Die holiday show, because we have so many homies in Buffalo too.
Yeah, it'd be. I'm really crossing my fingers and hoping that it can happen, because I've yet to see you guys.
I need to text Keith or someone in that camp and just be like, yo, let's go with that show, man. Even like an after party slot or something,
Right. So, I mean, you kind of have already hit on sort of the issues surrounding basically American Love and just kind of the trying to play the industry game of, like, we're trying to, get on a major, do all this shit, get the good look, get the big look basically in the industry. And I definitely feel like,
many opinions at the time, man. It was just insane. It was just like, it was tough for us to be tough. At that time, there were so many industry opinions. Everybody's like, "Oh, you guys need that one hit, just that one hit. You guys need all this producer, this songwriter," and we just honestly lost the emotional connection to the music. And I remember I had a conversation with our singer Dua, and it just opened my eyes. He was like, "Man," he's like, "I'm tired of going to LA and working on all these duty pop songs or something like that, or like dookie pop songs." And so, like, he was singing songs, like, he started singing songs that other people were writing for him that he didn't even care about.
Right.
Like, we have friends and homies that are part of our new album that helped songwrite and produced, but, like, these are people that are, like, wanted to be a part of that album.
Yeah, something I think that's going to obviously... I'm not saying American Love wasn't good, but there's something where when you listen to Stick Up Kids and then you go to American Nightmare, it just feels like that should have been the natural progression, kind of. But there seems to be more of an attitude. There seems to be more of an attitude because I think of the shit that you went through on American Love, which I think is kind of fitting. That, I mean, you start off with American Love, and then you go to American Nightmare, and one basically, it does kind of sound like two different bands, and even kind of the imagery of even going from the album artwork and the singles and such, it's like there's definitely a difference, like, kind of night and day. And I think it's just kind of interesting as a listener to kind of, I thought there was more of a, we're going to put out this fun poppy record kind of thing, and that's American Love, and, it's got the big asses and booties and shit on the fucking single covers and all this kind of stuff. And having fun, and then it's like you go American Nightmare comes out, and then it's like it's very serious, and like the tone of it, just like even looking at the album cover, it looks like something that's like, oh, this isn't like we're not here to have fun. We're here to like there's something that needs to be said, and we have this message that needs to get out. And when I heard the record, I was like, no, they're
So
like,
yeah,
good.
yeah, let me clarify because there's been these gaps in between albums that have steered our band in directions that we weren't really planning on going. So so after Stick Up Kids was an album we made. We wanted to make that. American Love was an album that we made, and that's the album we wanted to make. We made it with our close friend Brad Lewis, who's probably my favorite producer of all time. And he actually was the main producer on our upcoming album. But after Stick Up Kids, we went into the studio with Teddy Riley,
Yeah.
and we have a whole album that we did with him that we scrapped.
Is that the one that's got Chino on it, right?
Yeah, so Chino actually, like, a lot of people ask us about that. So Chino was a fan of Irepress. Keep going back to Irepress.
Well, I mean, he's a big fan of ISIS, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so man, never compare Irepress to ISIS.
No, I meant like the fact that he
I'm
was
just-
tight
I'm
with the
just
dude.
kidding.
Okay. I was gonna say like because he's tight with those dudes in ISIS, and obviously did that band that I wasn't a fan of either. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm just joking. But anyway, so one of I think yeah. So what happened was that with Chino was that we had a mutual friend, and he worked for a management company in Sacramento at the time, and we're still in touch with him now. And he's been a huge Bad Rabbit supporter from the jump. And he was friends with Chino, and our homie at the management company was playing Bad Rabbits in the office, and Chino walked in, and he was like, "Who is this?" Because he grew up listening to '90s music as well, like late '80s. He's like, "Who is this band?" And he's like, "Oh, it's actually the drummer from this band Irepress that you're a fan of. He's in this R&B band now." And so like fast forward, a couple years later. Sean, our homie at the management company, put me in touch directly with Chino via email, and was like, "Hey, these guys are in LA recording their record with Teddy Riley," and Chino was a big Teddy Riley fan. And then a week later, he was in the studio with us, but he never finished his vocals on. He never tracked his vocals on the record. He just laid his guitar down. Whether we put that song out or if he finishes that song and lays his vocals down or not, I have no idea. But those dudes are the homies now. They're a band we grew up on, and now they're peers. They're musical peers. We played a festival with Deftones in Maine, and hang on one second.
Yeah.
And he I looked over to my left and I see all of Deftones watching us side stage, and I was like, "This shit is crazy, man. That this band I grew up listening to respects us now and watches us perform, and we're still friends with them now. Every time they come to Boston, we hang out. We go out on the streets of Boston. We get hammered together. It's just last time Deftones were in town, Salim, myself, Frank, and Abe went out. We got seafood." In the seaport of Boston, and then we essentially all just blacked out. Don't even remember what happened after that. So, it's cool, man. It's cool that music brought us to the point where we're working with and we're friends with our peers. We're peers with our influences.
Right.
Like, for example, Beck from Glassjaw. I just talked to him yesterday. I was clowning on some pants he wore in a new photo shoot. Like, we're just on this candid level where these guys are friends of ours now, and they're also like big supporters of Bad Rabbit. So yeah, so all right, so after we did the album with Teddy Riley, all this industry stuff came in the way, and we realized it just wasn't the right time and the right record to put out. So we're sitting on that album with Teddy Riley, and then so we made American Love as a result of that. We went back to the drawing board. We're like, let's make an album we want to make. We got our friend Brad Lewis, the producer, involved, and we made that kind of booty shaking album, I guess, like sort of how you were describing it.
I meant
And
more
then
from a
after that-
visual. Sorry, I meant more
Yeah,
the
yeah,
visuals of it though.
Right. Fair enough. So after that, we got to the point. Well, during American Love, we got to the point where we were on national TV, and so now cue in the second kind of industry jerk off fest that happened. First one was the Teddy Riley experience, and the second one, all right, let me rewind a little bit because don't get me wrong, working with Teddy Riley was an undeniably incredible experience from a musical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but from a business perspective, it was an absolute nightmare.
Okay.
So going back to post American Love campaign, we now all these major labels start kind of coming back into circle. An indie band did Jimmy Kimmel Show. How did that happen? Blah blah blah. We got on the desks of all these major labels again. We were getting courted, and then all these hit makers and producers were getting their songs in our ears, and we're like, all right, maybe we should work with them. And like I said, we lost all the emotional connection to the music that we had on Stick Up Kids and American Love, and even in some parts of the Teddy Riley album. So that's why we made American Nightmare. It was just we were in a very kind of I wouldn't say dark place, but it was just we weren't in a fun place. That's for sure. When we made American Nightmare, we were just kind of we were angry at how the industry had treated us on some. We were angry at ourselves for decisions that we made that are still haunting us to this day when it comes to music business. We Salim and I, from the guitar player from Bad Rabbit, Salim and I set up a bunch of mics, pressed record, and started making noise in my basement, and that's how American Nightmare started. And so we started sending Dua. Dua was living in Salt Lake City at the time. We were doing all this recording in Boston, and we started sending Dua these demos of kind of like these heavy, dark rock songs, and he was like, "Dude," he's like, "this is crazy. Don't stop." And so he got his pen. He started writing a lot of lyrics and melodies. And my friend Jarrett from Irepress, Dua, write a lot on this new album. So again, going back to Irepress, it's like this big family of collection of artists and writers that are in our family, not people that we don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Jarrett was a huge help to Dua and getting his pen moving again, and getting him to love writing and love singing again. And so we made American Nightmare, and so now we cleansed ourselves of bad management. We cleansed ourselves of producers that were holding on to songs of ours that we want to put out. Just honestly, we made bad decisions, and we also aren't the easiest band to manage or to work with because we're so DIY. And so from a management perspective, I wouldn't want to manage our band. It's just all right, you guys want to do your thing, just do it. It's so I feel for the managers that have worked with us and for us in the past, but it's just we realized that we needed to cleanse all that shit. I feel we had a bunch of STDs and we just got quarantined. So now we're feeling free again, and now we can start working with our friends. We got Austin on board to do the vinyl again. And again, I met him we played his house, and from Irepress played his house. Yeah. And now he's working on a Bad Rabbits album. So it's crazy talking about it, how many opportunities came from Irepress. And so I owe that band a lot. Those are brothers for life.
So this has been kind of a very interesting chat because we just have kind of gone all over, which is fun because I always say I kind of wish podcasts were just sort of as they not necessarily kind of flowing through a list of questions, which I literally have written down. But you've kind of touched on everything regardless, so it's kind of fun that this happened very naturally. But something I've kind of wondered too, because the way I've been kind of pushing you guys to whoever is listening, whatever followers I have, whatever that is worth, was in doing my Deftones discography. Yeah, no, I'm a whore for anything I like. If I like something, I'm gonna fucking push it, especially musically, because I think music is one of those that it's there when you need it, kind of a thing, and you never know. Like I said, I hated Glassjaw for so long, and now they're one of my favorite bands. And interestingly enough, I got to meet Daryl when they did the Used tour that came through here, and dude couldn't have been nicer. Spent probably 25 minutes listening to my friend and I talk, and then I was trying to figure out a way to be all right, how do I ask Daryl to at least
potentially try to be on my podcast. And I was like, where I don't really want to talk about Glassjaw nor Head Automatic. I want to talk about like all the shit he's done other than that I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
And then my friend was like, "Oh yeah, my like this dude's got a podcast. Like so and so's been on it. This person's been on it, and so on and so forth. Like people he's worked with and shit." So it was like, "Oh, like Nate and Ivy from Finch. Like those are my people. I fucking love them. Like how are they doing and all this kind of shit." And then I was like, "Yeah, I'm talking with Ebbets like in like a week or so." And he was like, "Oh man, I remember like Ebbets when we did like that first record with Ross and so on and so forth." So like I kind of had that in since I had already had people on that he knew and liked personally. And then I was like, yeah, I'd like to have you on. I mean, I'm sure everyone would love to have you on their fucking thing, but I would like to have you on and talk about like color film and, you working with Keith on tape, like that project that Keith's doing and like all this kind of shit. And then I was like, in the stuff you were doing with Sean Martin from Hatebreed, like that, Cardboard City shit you guys were doing. And he was like, oh man, like you're a real fan of like the stuff I'm doing outside of the normal shit that everyone knows. He was like, yeah, like hit me up on this thing. And I never know, like, when someone hands me something, if it's like, okay, here's the polite blow-off. Like, contact me on this, and I'm never going to look at it. So I'm interested to see if that ends up panning out. I know the tour that they were on is done, so we'll see if I can get Daryl on this to talk. But it's kind of funny, too. That,
yeah,
like,
I mean, they're tough, man. I mean, Beck tough. We have a very good business relationship, but we also, he's like a big brother,
right,
to myself and everybody in Bad Rabbits, and he's been through the ringer and back with the music industry, and so he's taught us a lot. He's almost like a Nostradamus. He was actually saying this. He's like, I'm like fucking Nostradamus. He's like, I predicted everything that your band was going to go through because he's gone through the same shit, and so, but someone asked me recently what. There was some music industry panel there. It was like, what advice would you have for a band or, someone in music industry school or studying music business in college? I was like, my response was, you just got to really go out there and get fucked over a bunch of times to really understand how the industry works because, look at Glassjaw. They call their own shots now. They've been fucked over so many times and they make poor decisions, but they still have an incredible band and they have an incredible brand,
Yes.
So, like people still buy their merch, they still do crazy numbers in merch sales and, they put one album out every 15 years, and they're so, it's a testament to just sticking to your guns and like not doing off-brand shit and just really focusing on just good, honest music, good, honest artwork and branding, all that shit it all ties in. So, Glassjaw, they're tough, man. They're not easy band to get a hold of, but if you can get Daryl on your podcast, that'd be tight.
Yeah, well, it kind of started because I was like, dude, I love your rhythm section. Like the fact that, it's Travis and Chad from Glass Cloud. And I was like, dude, like this.
That fool is destroyed. They're so nasty.
Yeah, well, that was that was the route I was gonna go with. Daryl was like, hey, like, do you think like those dudes would want to be on my podcast? Because I really admire them as musicians. And then like my buddy was like, yo, you should be on this dude's podcast. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I should have asked Daryl. Like I didn't even think of that. I was more like, yo, let me get Travis and Chad on.
Chad is such a sick drummer. I saw him on not this most recent tour that they were on, but the one before it.
Right.
And no disrespect to Daraja, the drummer before that, and the bass player Manny. Like them two are so sick too. But there was just this deep pocket that the drum Chad has now that his just groove was just on another level.
Well, he makes it look so fucking effortless too, and he's he's so tall. Like I think that's like the weird thing that like kind of helps him too. Like there's this video of him doing something from this most recent tour, I think for Zildjian or Remo or something like that. I forget who it was for, some drum company. And the sound quality is not the greatest, but it's like just watching him play this fucking thing, and like it doesn't even look like he's like. I mean, he's not like thinking about it, but it's just like you watch this fucking dude, and it's like, God damn, like how.
Filthy drummer.
And then it's like on top of that, it's like as I told Travis and Chad, I was like, the fact that you two are like a rhythm section naturally, like you went from Glass Cloud And, and I was like, I feel like you guys have like done so much shit, whether it be like studio work or something. Like you two are just like a pair basically that have worked together so many times and so many different things. And Travis is like, well, I mean, we are. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that. I mean, I have another set of friends that one's a drummer, and like he now is like the drummer for like the Jake Clemens band and like Grace Potter and stuff like that. Like he's kind of like a hired gun of sorts. Like he just played extra percussions on Gwen Stefani's like Christmas shit I just saw the other like recently, and I was like, what the fuck? And the other dude's like a bass player. Like they both are. Well, the drummer now lives out in L.A., but the bass player Ryan lives in New York, and it's weird because it's like those two, like whenever they're on something together, like any project they do, it's just like you can tell that they've spent so much time together as a rhythm section.
Right.
And it's like you can see that even though like the Glassjaw songs that they're playing, most of them they didn't write, they're just basically performing them, but it's like they bring something, an intangible that doesn't exist, like if you were to put another drummer there and another bass player in that situation, because they have so many years of playing together and you just can't recreate that like any other way. And I think it really adds to Glassjaw's sound now. It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, well, my friend Billy Reimer from
Dillinger, yep.
Yeah, so he played drums on the new Glassjaw record, and that's actually my favorite part of the whole album is his drumming. The new album, Material Control, like I was telling Beck, I was like, man, like such a standout drumming record.
Yes.
And granted, Beck probably wrote a lot of those drum parts, but Billy probably took, it sounded like Billy took those and just made them his own and just destroyed them. So he's a sick drummer too. Speaking of drummers.
Yeah. It really sucks because I've only seen Dillinger once. Actually, I've seen him twice. The first time was in the balcony in Detroit when they were on tour with Deftones on the Diamond Eyes cycle. And the last time was like Dillinger doing a headlining run on their own. But unfortunately, here in Grand Rapids, like the thing that sucks is we're a musician's town. So instead of people going crazy, you just had everyone with their arms crossed, like staring at whatever instrument, or musician that they like, and they're just like, oh, what is the pedal board? What are you playing? What are you doing? What strings? What this? What that? And it's like, this kind of sucks because it's like I'd rather have like a more intense Dillinger experience that I never got and I now never will, supposedly.
Speaking of those types of crowds, Irepress played in front of so many of those crowds, and like I said, we weren't that band that was dead serious on stage. We'd be like laughing, right?
Yeah.
So it was always this like weird juxtaposition of dead serious people in the crowd and these like jokingly faces on stage.
Well, I think at the Irepress house show that I saw you guys at, it was really weird because like my friend a dude I became friends with that I used to go see his band play all the time. I was like, this is the only other person that's done it was your guitar player. I was trying to look at what he was playing, and then when like whatever he was playing, he'd take like his fretting hand or his picking hand. I'm sorry, he'd take his picking hand and cover his fretting hand. And only the dude that like I ended up becoming friends with and roommates with, like he's the only other person who's ever noticed me watching them play something or whatever, and they cover their hand as they're playing. And so I like had
Are you serious?
yeah, he was like fucking with me like that. He noticed that I was like paying like really close attention to what he was doing, and then kind of did that real quick. And
which one it was?
I don't know, but it also was right before one of those gang vocal parts because it scared me because he like shouted right at me, and I was like, "Whoa, shit! What's going on?" And
I missed that, man. That band, that was so much fun touring and playing in that band. That was my favorite touring experience was with Irepress on the Irepress Battlefields tour.
it just seemed like a really weird bill, but like everybody was tight and everyone had a lot of fun supporting each other on that. That's the vibe I got from the one time I got to see you guys do that show.
Man, that was such an insane experience, and I don't know. I'm grateful that we had this talk because it just made me realize how much I owe to the whole Irepress family. Because without that band, I definitely wouldn't be. As a musician, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. That's for sure.
So, kind of my two last questions, I guess. So where I kind of was going with that before I got sidetracked with the Glassjaw thing. So you guys put out a cover series, as it I think is known technically online, with the Deftones cover, which is the one I plugged when talking with Fallon, going through our Deftones discography discussion, and have been talking about I think just about everyone leading up to the Diamond Eyes one. Because what I didn't want to do is like kind of give it away too early. It's like, okay, I want to say like when they did this cover of Sex Tape, now that we're talking about Diamond Eyes, like it fits and it works, and and I want to push it. And
Cool.
I don't know if you saw her reply, because I sent it to her, and then she finally like wrote back or replied back to that thing, and it was like, this is like perfection. So I mean, somebody who's also a huge Deftones fan, and that's arguably like our favorite record out of the whole bands, and she's putting it that it's a really solid cover, and she really enjoyed it. So
Awesome.
but
Yeah, that's
what went into choosing those three songs, and what went into deciding to do that as a whole? Because I feel like
so,
again, kind of talking about you guys doing things before it's popular or mainstream. When you guys did those covers, that wasn't a big thing people were doing, was doing cover songs of bands that they liked or were influenced by. Now, I mean, it almost seems like the route to success, like, oh, do a cover of a pops or a current song, and then sure as shit, like I Prevail or whatever, and you can get like mainstream success all of a sudden off of it.
yeah. Well, I think that we I don't know, we've always been a fan of music, so we wanted to, and even with the covers that we did, we wanted to make sure that we made it our own, and every single cover that we did got praise from the artist.
I gotta say that Human Nature, that's probably one of my favorite songs
That's
like
from Michael
ever.
Jackson.
Yeah, no, I know. It's probably one of my favorite songs ever. Like, not of just Michael Jackson's, but like ever. And I almost think, as much as I do like the Michael Jackson, like the studio version, I think there's something, an intangible I haven't quite put my finger on, that I like your version better. And I'm still not sure why. I think maybe it's just because of the live instrumentation and kind of a different vibe that you get off of that one as opposed to anything else I've out of the studio version. But it's always my go-to typically when I want to hear Human Nature.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. I think we, as far as Human Nature goes, I mean, we all grew up listening to Michael Jackson. Let's see, Dream's one of, collectively, between Irepress and Bad Rabbits, The Dream is one of our favorite songwriters of all time. The Walking on the Moon cover, Smashing Pumpkins was a band we grew up on. Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness is one of my favorite rock albums of all time. Rock opera albums, I guess, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then Deftones is obviously a band we grew up on, but that album specifically kind of brought a lot of older Deftones fans back into loving that band.
Yeah.
Me especially, and I was already friends with them at that time. We became peers at that time, and we were bumping Deftones Diamond Eyes on a Stick Up Kids tour. It was like one routing or one leg of a Stick Up Kids tour. That album came out, and we just bumped that in our shitty 15-passenger van for like 2 months straight. And then that actually put a lot of people up. Two guys from Bad Rabbits that weren't really into Deftones before, that album made them Deftones fans. So Diamond Eyes was a choice because of that. And then we actually have another cover song coming out on Valentine's Day this year.
Oh.
Yeah. It's actually, I can't really say. You just have to find out.
I was gonna say, that's fine if you can't tell me.
Yeah. It's definitely another one of those, like, oh, that's weird, but I think we did it in a cool way.
I don't really think at this point. I mean, just the cross section of those three artists between Smashing Pumpkins, Deftones, and Michael Jackson, it's like, if you were to look at that from any other band, you would almost be like, this doesn't make any sense. I think from you guys, it's like you could literally play or cover, I think, just about anything, and I wouldn't be like, wow, I'm shocked at that. It'd be like, all right, like.
So we're covering a Meshuggah song.
Oh man, I'm trying to think, like, in my head, I'm like, okay, like what could you do? And then part of me is like, do you go back as far as like, something off of like new, like was it New Millennium Side Night Christ, like something off of that, like a Obscene, or do you go like something more like current?
Yo,
like...
well, I was joking, by the way, but sorry, I'm filling up some water. It sounds like I'm pitching, but I'm filling up some water in a jug.
That's
Hopefully
fine.
Get that on the podcast. So my favorite Meshuggah song is "Quarter of Chameleon" by far.
Okay.
That's one of the songs I've ever heard in my whole entire life. And that was a song that Bad Rabbits bumped on one of our tours nonstop, and we beat the absolute shit out of each other in our van listening to that song. So So yeah, cover song in February on Valentine's Day. It's coming out, and then our album will come out this summer, and then we're gonna play a bunch of shows this summer. We're gonna go to the UK in the fall, um, and we haven't told anybody any of those plans yet. So if anybody's listening to this, this is where they're gonna listen to it first, I guess.
All right.
I mean, I hope people still care about our band. I mean, I think they do based on what our conversation is, how our conversation is going now. We're talking about it and that stuff, but I think a lot of our fans that were kind of thrown off by American Nightmare. It was definitely an album we needed to make, and I'm not saying we're never going to make a heavy album like that ever again. I mean, I consider it a soul album,
right.
but I'm not saying we're never going to make an album of that capacity again. But this next album definitely circles back to kind of where we came from.
So, sorry, I'm picking up something I
Well,
dropped.
not kind of where we came, but like how our band, the sound that our band started with.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the one constant that you've talked about on this is just that basically you are done kind of like with a lot of the bullshit and are able to get back to, I think, the thing that the original spark that made everyone, that made Stick Up Kids catch people's attention and so forth. So I'm excited to see where this record goes. Like I said, I don't think that you've put out a bad record at all. I think that it's interesting to, like I said, to me, the natural progression would have been like if you didn't have American Love and it just went from Stick Up Kids to American Nightmare. I think that's, I mean, while it's a darker record, I somehow feel like that's a more natural progression to me because it just seems like a band that's I just think it's kind of one of those things. Like I think like and having hindsight I think makes it a lot easier to make these claims, but sometimes I think like when you make a record, I just feel like maybe American Nightmare for me just feels like an album of the time that it came out. Like that there's just kind of you're upset about some shit and not everything's great and there needs to be some real shit being said, and you guys made a real fucking honest record. And I think it's like I said, I think it's just a sign of the times. I think it was when you're gonna look back at it, you're gonna be like, man, like there's a lot of honest music coming out around this like couple year gap, because I mean we're looking at a lot of shit changing on a global level, like in our global climate of politics and shit and just our everyday life. And I think that that's a record that kind of reflects that.
Yeah, I think that it was the start of our whole kind of industry cleansing process.
Right.
And still, like I said, we're still kind of dealing with a little bit of sorry, one second. We're still dealing with the aftermath of, I guess, the ripple effect of some bad business decisions we made.
Yeah.
And we realized, we're like, you know what? Let's just continue to work with people that really want to fuck with us and have our back from day one. And that's why we circled back to working with Austin, working with Jimmy Laser, working with Brad Lewis, working with Justin Beck. I actually even got in touch with our old manager, Jesse Corman. He was a singer of the band, the number 12 Looks Like You.
Yeah.
And he like we had a bad falling out with him at one point. He helped. He was a big part of putting the record Stick Up Kids together. And I'm friends with him again. Just cleansing ourselves of just like bad energy, bad blood, and just moving on. Like working with people that want to work with us, not that have to work with us, or we're told to work with us by another person because it's cool.
Right.
So, yeah, I feel good about all the stuff that we have planned for this year, and we have enough music to plan for the next 5 years. Honestly.
Awesome.
Fortunately, we just weren't able to put it out until this year.
Right. So, speaking of music, I always like to end these episodes with a song. So, what would you like me to play this episode out to?
I'd say Naysayer by Architects.
Okay. And maybe a little backstory on it. Is that like just a song you've been jamming a lot lately, or something about it that you connect with?
A tour manager in the UK played that for me in the UK when we were there. We were in a Sprinter van, he put it on, and I don't know. I've been just kind of like digging back into heavy music a little bit recently,
Okay.
and I was listening to that song the other day, and I remembered how nasty that song was. So that's the first song that came to my head.
Okay.
So that's the one.
And then socials, where can everyone find you and or the band?
At Bad Rabbits across the board.
All right. Well, thank you for your time this evening talking with me, and hopefully it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, man. Thank you for talking to me. Sorry, I'm just walking out of my apartment right now.
No worries.
So yeah, thank you so much, man. I'm really glad that you that whole Irepress, the start of Irepress, and then leading up till now. It's been such a long time. It's been like almost 10 years or something like that, maybe even more.
I think it's been a little over 10 years.
And thank you for continuing to support us, keeping in touch.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy when you make good music.
Me, hopefully we'll see you. So where do you live again?
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah. Oh, Michigan. Oh, yeah, that's right. Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yeah, let's keep in touch, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your night. So that was my chat with Sheel Davè of Bad Rabbits and Irepress. That was a really interesting chat for me. Like I said in the intro, and as you kind of heard in this episode as a whole, I didn't really ask any questions. I basically started telling Sheel that the questions I was going to ask and if he was cool with it, and then he just answered and kind of went. I think that speaks to the passion that Sheel has in regards to, Bad Rabbits, what they've gone through over the last handful of years. I mean, it was really interesting for him to kind of really open up and explain from an artist perspective what it was like for the band to try to chase their dreams in a different manner of, having someone go like, hey, this is what you should be doing. If you follow XYZ, this will be the outcome. And, hearing that basically they finished a record that sounds a lot like, the Bruno Mars stuff that's coming out now, or the Justin Timberlake stuff that's coming out now that has that early 90s sound to it, and that people in the industry laughed at them. And it's really sad because, it's like, they were slightly ahead of their time, and I feel like if they were to put this shit out now, obviously it would hit because it's what's currently popular. And I think I said it in one of my other podcasts where it's kind of bittersweet that sometimes you put out something and you'll have a small niche amount of fans who support what you're doing, but it isn't until 4, 5, 6, 7 years later, or 10 years later, or after the band breaks up, that it's like now you get the notoriety and the fandom that should have accompanied it from the jump. Except for now you're not around really to enjoy the spoils of your hard work and putting like the groundwork in on that specific sound or scene. And, Bad Rabbits isn't doing anything new per se. They're basically mining an old sound from the early 90s that, a lot of us in our mid 30s or so grew up listening to, but they're doing it in a fresh way that I think is fun and interesting. And they're definitely a band that I feel like I'm hoping will get the recognition they deserve in the next handful of years if they can keep making good music and so forth, and buck industry standards. It was really a bummer to hear that basically the band kind of actually I think let me take that back. I think it was really interesting to hear that basically, and a good telltale for any band that may be listening to this, that when the band came out they were doing their own thing and people took notice and wanted to work with them. The likes of Teddy Riley, Chino Marinos, and so forth, people who have been doing their own thing for a long, long time in the industry. And if anything, I think when Sheel basically says that, it was when we decided to start listening to other people in the industry, try to be like, if you work with this producer, if you write these kind of songs, it's going to get you this kind of outcome, only to not have it happen. And I think it obviously causes frustration as an artist, to know that you are onto something, but basically maybe that you're not where you need to be at the right time, and that would be really frustrating. And I think you can get a sense of that clearly from listening to Sheel talk about everything that the band's been going through. Obviously, with his back injuries that have been slowing down the band a little bit. It was really interesting to hear that he basically said that he gave the band full permission to look for another drummer so that they can continue, and that the band has stuck with him. Waiting for him to recover from his injuries to move forward with him as the unit that is Bad Rabbits currently. I think that speaks volumes to, the band being a band of brothers and being the bond being stronger than anybody else that you could just plug in so you can ride the success that you're currently having or whatever. I think we see that a lot in today's music industry too. Like, oh, this person's holding us back. Well, fuck it, fire him. I own the name. Continue on, rinse, repeat, whatever. So, but the real reason actually that I am getting this episode out, I literally just got off the plane from LA, and within the last, I think I've been home for about 20 minutes now. But the whole reason that we did this podcast, and we are putting it out now, is because as of when you were listening to this, there's a new Bad Rabbits track out, as I said in the intro. It is a cover of Rihanna's Love on the Brain. So this continues on with their covers series of sorts. And for some, this may be an odd song for the band to cover, but I think given the nature that they've covered Human Nature by Michael Jackson, Smashing Pumpkins, and Deftones, I think this fits right in with where their sound is and kind of showcases their broad range of musical influences as far as who they listen to and what they're able to pull off. So for me, it's not really that big of a surprise. I think the surprise really was when Rihanna came out with the song initially. It was a song that I didn't think she would do stylistically, but became quickly one of my favorite songs off of that record that it was on. And I think it's a great vehicle to showcase the band's tightness as far as being a live band and also showcasing Dua's range, which is something that is pretty impressive in and of itself. I'm hoping that maybe this will, once again, like some of the other covers that they have on their YouTube channels and such, will get a different fan base in front of the band, and maybe they will go down the rabbit hole, no pun intended, of finding this band's back catalog and seeing how great they really are, and falling in love, no pun intended again, with this music that this band has been making consistently for a while. And maybe those who may not be familiar with this band who are listening to this, I don't know if Bad Rabbits or any of those dudes are going to share this, but if any of you are not familiar with Irepress or didn't know any of the stuff going on with Bad Rabbits, I really hope that you stick with them. God damn, I'm just killing it with these Bad Rabbit song titles or album titles. I'm sorry. I'm not meaning to, but I really do hope that, they have a really good loyal fan base. A lot of people love this band in a live setting and in their discography as a recorded band. But I really do hope good things for this band, starting with this single, hopefully catching on, hopefully getting the attention of a lot of different people. I hope band people who listen to this, interestingly enough, I know JM and the Body Rampant dudes, if you go back and listen to that podcast I did with him, he's kind of basically just went through the same shit that the BR camp went through with a label. They basically got out of the label deal that they were on and are just putting out this new record that's been sat on for like 2 years. They're putting it out, I believe, this upcoming Friday. And, it's kind of cool to see we're in a world where the artists can take back and do their own thing and still have success at it. With the digital age that we live in, being able to put things out and getting to the audience directly. We see a lot of businesses doing it with, direct to consumer, and I'm loving the fact that bands are able to do that more so now than ever. So I think it's a great thing. And I'm looking forward to, actually, it would be great to maybe see Bad Rabbits and the Body Rampant do some shit. I think those are two really diverse bands, but somehow I think they both would work. And I think actually if the people and the members involved have never actually hung out with each other, I think they would all actually get along. So I'm going to say this, 2018, Bad Rabbits, Body Rampant, make that shit fucking happen. Without further ado, I'm going to kind of get done with my ramblings. So if you would like to follow Bad Rabbits and keep up with them, the new song is going to be, like I said, Love on the Brain by Rihanna. I don't know as of right now when I'm recording this the night before all this shit drops. I don't know how they're releasing everything. I would assume they're just going to put it up for free because obviously with covers and a lot of legalities of that, you can't monetize this kind of shit. So chances are, if you just go to Bad Rabbits across the board, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all Bad Rabbits, you will probably see the song and a link to download it or whatever, however they make it available. I'm assuming it's going to be potentially just like the other cover songs where it's like available on YouTube or so forth. But it is awesome. The cover art for this single is awesome. I will be posting it somewhere when I posted this episode. So we're going to actually end this episode with the cover of the new Bad Rabbits track, which again is Love on the Brain. It's a Rihanna cover. And if you like this band, please, please, please go support them. Go follow them across their socials. Go listen to their back catalog. Support them. They have a ton of great vinyl, whether it be through Mind Over Matter Records, Enjoy the Ride Records. They do everything. 7 inches, the 12 inches. They got sweet merch. Yeah, just basically go support this band. As you heard Sheel say, they're basically all self-funded, independent band in every sense of the word. So support this band, and they will be able to continue to do awesome shit. And if you would like to throw some support to Mosh Pit Nation, our partner of the podcast, you can follow them over on moshpitnation.com. You can find this podcast there. You can follow them on Facebook at Mosh Pit Nation West, capital M-I. And Instagram and Twitter is easily enough, Mosh Pit Nation. If you would like to follow me, you can do such on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube over at John's Entitled Podcast. You can tweet at me at John's Entitled Pod, and you can also email me at johnsentitledpod@gmail.com. If you actually are following me on Twitter, you saw my basically random musings as I was wandering around on this trip between the gentleman who had the Chinese chopstick sleeves as a tie while I was waiting in the airport, and many other things. So like I said, I'm always trying to be diverse and different with my stuff I post across the various socials. So if you would like to follow me and keep in contact, that'd be great. I will definitely be talking about my trip to LA on the next podcast, but without further ado, we're going to end this episode as we always do with a song. Actually, as we've been doing the last couple episodes, we're going to end it with 2 songs. So this first one is Naysayer by Architects, which is what Sheel wanted me to end it to. And then as soon as that's done, we are going to play the new Bad Rabbits track, Love on the Brain, their cover of Rihanna. So with that, I'll talk to you next week.
The sound of people giving up. You can smell me, give me a fuck. Fucking I'm a dreamer and I'm dreaming on. Fucking I'm a dreamer and I'm dreaming on. And every concession, another piece of the sky. While we fight for nothing in front of our eyes. Empathy is another desire. Only I can let this guy Just to get close to you, can we burn something, babe? I'll run for miles just to get a taste. Must be love on the brain that's got me feeling this way. It beats me black and blue, but it fucks me so good I can't get enough. Must be love on the brain, and it keeps cursing my name. No matter what I do, I'm no good without you. I can't get enough. Must be love on the brain, and you keep loving me, loving me, love me. All you gotta do is love me. Got me like tired of being played like a violin. What do I gotta do to get in your motherfucking heart? Got me like just stop loving me. Don't quit loving me. Just start loving me. Oh, and babe, I'm just fighting with fire just to get close to you. Can we burn something, baby? And I'll run for miles just to get a taste.